I mentioned it like every day in class, so let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Karis George. Welcome to my second case study, and for this case study, I will be talking about Cobra's Curse, the spinning coaster. Cobra's Curse debuted in 2016 at Busch Gardens, Tampa, in the Egypt land of the park. It's manufactured by Mock Rides and has multiple innovative elements that age the story. I'll talk about those later. Firstly, the general story. Essentially, it's about an Egyptian ruler who's a snake king. His name is Venomous, which I find kind of silly. In this tale, he has a cobra statue, which gives him all of his power. He eventually becomes so corrupt with this power that his once previous subjects destroy his cobra statue. As you move through the queue, you'll notice that it's divided into 3 main sections. Recalling the rule of 3, you'll often see designers presenting information in groups of 3s to aid storytelling. In the first section, you approach a dig site. It's a cavern-like area that looks well discovered, studied, and occupied by a team of professionals. As you move into this cavern, it slowly evolves into a chamber. In this area, which I find very interesting, there are actual live snake enclosures. I believe there is 4 or 3, but when I was there, I only noticed 1. This is actually a common element of Busch Gardens and SeaWorld parks. Regardless of how you feel about their treatment of animals, they will always try to use them in their attractions. I noticed this at multiple attractions at Busch Gardens. They even had live cheetahs around their cheetah hunt ride. Finally, there is the pre-show style room. It's a very straightforward pre-show, nothing too complex. They don't hold you in a room or anything or have any extra staffing there. Instead, they use an audio loop and projection mapping to explain the king's current state on an old Cobra hieroglyphic. The queue is very immersive. I think it achieves its message well of making the guest and the viewer feel like you are in the position of being an archaeologist and you're exploring more things about these ruins and uncovering more and more evils. Before we move on to the ride system itself, let's talk about the general audience for this attraction. Dialogue and theming signs posted and used around the queue are not very complex. The story is very easy to understand. Additionally, the height requirement for this ride is only 48 inches, and if you're shorter than 48 inches, you can be 41 if accompanied by a supervising companion. On the Busch Gardens site, the ride is only described as a moderate thrill level. Knowing this information, we can conclude that the audience is for families with younger kids. Like all amusement parks and theme parks, they make most of their money off of admission prices, food sales, game sales, and merchandise sales. In Cobra's Curse specifically, they do have a merchandise location located outside of the ride. This ride has one of the most unique beginnings that I have seen in a while. So it starts with an elevator lift. It sort of acts like a mine cage or a mine cage elevator, making you feel like you're an explorer just checking out new territory. As you climb up, you realize that the statue of the Cobra's Curse has become rebuilt, and it starts to speak to you.
Yes, I am the serpent, I am the darkness, and you are now.
As you traverse the rest of the coaster layout, it's clear that the King Venomous is not through with you, as then he turns your cars backwards. You continue the layout for a little while backwards, and then my favorite part is that all of the trains sort of separate and then you start to spin. This pairs very well with the idea of a snake-themed ride. Not only does the ride coil around itself, but you have to take a very unique path in order to escape a snake that reflects its hunting patterns. This attraction suits this park very well. It is what you would expect at a Busch Gardens park. My one concern with this ride is that when I visited last month during peak operating hours, it was the middle of the day, the entire pre-show room was just not functioning. This is the last thing you see before you end up getting onto your train. So why wouldn't you have an entire thematic section not working? Additionally, I think this ride could use some better night lights and night theming lights to add more atmosphere. Other than that, I'm very excited to ride Cobra's Curse again in November.